Veterans Act because I believe that if anyone deserves a leg up in America, it's those who've served on our behalf.
The Department of Veterans Affairs was born July 21st, 1930 under Executive Order number 5398 of President Hoover and raised to the cabinet level on March 15th, 1989. The VA's mission is to serve America's veterans and their families with dignity and compassion and to be their principal advocate in ensuring that they receive medical care, benefits, social support, and lasting memorials of all veterans in recognition of the service to the U.S. As in most cases, there are a few problems with the VA. My partner David and I sat down with Congressman Tim Huelskamp from Kansas as he explains some of the problems of the VA.
Been within the VA. It's the second largest bureaucracy in Washington. There are 320,000 bureaucrats that work there, and I think most of them do a great job, but we found out, particularly at the management level and the political appointee level, that there was no accountability. These veterans put their lives on the line, and they, as they tell you, they were the lucky ones that came back. And then they come back, they have these promises again. These are all income dependent, and these are folks that are not wealthy, and this is their main health care. And they thought they were taken care of. And and what bothers me is these men and women put their lives on the line, and then they're trusting the VA to take care of.
Representatives knew there was a problem. However, what they didn't know was the magnitude of that problem until brave whistleblowers brought this problem to the forefront.
And these brave whistleblowers who would come to us, they'd see the hearings on television. They said, well, that's not what's happening in my VA facility. And then they come forward, and I think we had dozens of those men and women. They put their careers on the line. A lot of them got fired. A lot of them punished and intimidated when it was found out. I actually had whistleblowers come to my office and sit on the couch and telling me, and I remember one in particular, I mean, she had driven 200 miles for the hearing. They'd been trying to fire her from her job. She was telling us that people were losing their lives, perhaps. She brought her kid was with her, put their lives on the line. She knew after she did her testimony, made it public, she was going to go back and be penalized at work and be an outcast in some places. So, but those are the brave men and women. So it was our job as member of Congress to hear the complaints, to give these whistleblowers an opportunity to speak up. And then the media took care of that. And then we started getting the phone calls from folks that weren't veterans who were outraged. I mean, we're spending all this money, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're not getting the job done.
Nationwide, there are many veterans as well as families that suffer from the flaws of the VA. Early in November of 2014, David and I met with Nancy Gershner and Karen Gibbs, daughters of Primus Supus, a World War II veteran. Mr. Supus struggled with the VA and recently passed away in August of 2014. One disclaimer, the family of Mr. Supus does not blame the care they received from the VA to be the reason of his death. However, they do believe a more efficient VA system would have greatly benefited them and could also save the lives of many other veterans in the U.S. Nancy and Karen only know one way to describe their father.
I don't know if I know any other terms but hero for that.
And he was very brave. I think always, I did never see him flinch from anything, and I think even as he got sick towards the end of his life, I think he was still a very brave person.
Though he was a brave man, the Kansas veteran had some medical issues that made it difficult for an elderly man to make the long drive to the closest VA facility.
And I kept after him, and I didn't get it done on the first 3 times I took him down there. And we would have to travel to Wichita. Wichita is 3.5 hours from here. And for an elderly person, that is rather hard on him. Needless to say, we started with the hearing loss thing, and he has his local physician here in this area. Out here in the country, as I would say, we have to travel to Hayes. The closest one now is Dodge City because they recently closed Garden City. So that's where we go. What do we do for these veterans out in the rural areas?
And at that time, he was in the rest home. We find out there are several men in the rest home that have the same problem as our dad. They too were required to go, and they couldn't any longer. One was bedridden.
And losing their benefits.
And how many thousands of people is that happening to? Just in our little community, we knew of 4 right there in the little community we were in.
In my 4 years in Congress, we've helped over 500 veterans cutting through red tape, and you know, we help a lot of different constituents through a lot of red tape and problems. There are always failures in bureaucracies or any part of the of one's life, and but what happened here was just an extraordinary amount of failures in the system, and so veterans that were waiting or languishing for care, or we had a case we investigated within the district of someone that died waiting for care, we thought, and we had a direct investigation about one individual who died at in the VA facility.
On October 2nd, 2013, the Veterans Access to Care Through Choice, Accountability, and Transparency Act of 2014 was introduced. This bill was signed into law on August 7th of 2014. The old ways of the VA made it to where no matter how far a veteran lived from the VA center, that was the only place they could receive care. However, this law now allows veterans that live more than 40 miles away from the VA center to see their own personal physician.
We'd ask them very specific questions based on what the whistleblowers told us, and in some cases they lied to us. And so once we found out about the lies and can confirm them, that's when we had some blow-ups. That's when the media really got interested. But it was the coming together of members of Congress with whistleblowers, my constituents, saying, hey, I don't know if I'm getting the care I deserve, and the rest of the population saying this is outrageous. And as a result, in July, we passed it through the House, and it was signed by the President, I think, early in August, some very significant changes, and it would pass unanimously through the House. It said veterans should have a choice, but it's only for 2 years. It is a trial program to allow veterans this choice. So it's interesting. Usually people think, well, you sit around a table and you say, what's going to be good policy? But it took input from the press, whistleblowers, constituents, veterans. In a way, I think we improved the system, but we've got a long ways to go to make it the way it should be.